Hey guys, back in here on another live stream, and of course we'll go into a breakdown now of some TA, as well as maybe some sentiment looks at what the response of the market is in terms of what's happening with the FOMC. Chair Powell, he's actually still at the podium. I'm just watching it over here on the side. But we'll dive into all that good stuff. My name is Paul Barron, and welcome back into TechPath. All right, so FOMC, I think this one went a little bit longer, and I think because it's still kind of railing in, but he's kind of re-hitting on some of the same points that he's been talking for the last 30, 40 minutes on. I think that the press corps is a little surprised at his position or disposition around where the market is going. So we definitely wanted to dive in and see, well, let's take a look at some charts. And as you guys know, we always look at the altcoins here every week with Evan Aldo. So I want to bring in Evan real quick. Hey, Evan, nice to see you, man.
Great to be on. Thanks so much. Fun day.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a big one. A lot happening. I just want to jump right to your Bitcoin chart because this one, Bitcoin, of course, is now jumping back into what could be approaching its Sunday high. What are your thoughts on where this might go from here?
Yeah, so two big things I want to show you on Bitcoin right now. The first thing I'm going to show you that I was looking at today, really briefly, just comparing it. This is the NASDAQ back in 2001 after the dot-com bubble. And a lot of people are obviously talking about the monthly. You know, we've just confirmed a few days ago the green candle right here. Now we're on a new one. This is similar because look at the green dot right here, and then it rolled over here. So this would be the path. If it's like the NASDAQ, this would be the path. You know, Powell sounded more dovish overall. You'd come up a little bit more up to maybe 25K here, maybe up to 25K, a sideways, more neutral bullish month here. Then you could potentially roll over to a lower low. And that would be the case to come down to the place everybody's been talking about, 12K, 11K. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think there's a decent probability. We don't know what could happen with inflation too. We could get worse numbers. They could sound more hawkish in the next few months. And there's no signs of pausing yet. They're probably going to keep going, doing 25 until proven otherwise. That's what we have to look at right now. Also, the other thing I've really been keeping my eye on right here is look at where I circled right here. We have split RSIs, red dot coming down in the 3-day. This does not happen very often at all here. Last time this happened was April 2022. This was not as strong, kind of similar though. Split RSIs coming down right here. Obviously, this was a complete nightmare. I don't think we're going to crash that much, that quickly. Hopefully not. But if you compare it to back here, this was the pandemic drop right here. Split RSIs coming down. This is, these are big drops down. Obviously, I don't know if it's going to be 60%. That's really bad. But here's another comparison right here. This is probably the most likelihood. That's about 30% down. So split RSIs coming down. So there's a decent probability to come down a good amount. If we come down 30%, I mean, typically when you do see bottoms, even if 15.5 was the bottom, it would make sense at some point to retest that. You come down another 30% in the coming months, April, May, for kind of a double bottom here at that 15, 16K area. Big possibility of that. And also what I'm looking at here for, potentially to see the top of this rally right here, what I want to show you is look at this good curvature. Look at this great curvature on the money flow right there. That could bring you down quite a bit. Now, before then, we could absolutely pump up just a little bit higher. I think we could get up to around 24.7. That's a huge area, 200 weekly average, or the 25K area. Now, I would not be talking about 30K unless we could somehow push through, close a weekly candle above 25K. That's my main view here.
Right. Yeah. All right. So many things happening here in terms of the fundamentals of what Chair Powell talked about. He hit on a few big points that I want to reiterate from the live stream. One was the biggest issue around is 5% acceptable as they start to see this move. That could happen literally right at mid-year. So talking about March, April, May, possibly being a window here where we could see a pivot. Now, that's the question mark that almost everybody has kind of been talking to. And back to our point that we've hit on here on the show for quite some time, mid-year is kind of what we've been looking at. Definitely possible. This was an interesting statement from Bob Lucas. He basically what he said, listen, anything can happen, yes, but it's possible that we could have saw the bottom at the end of the bear market at the end of December. So again, I don't necessarily think that was the case. Yes, of course, 15.8. Yes, that was a nice bottom. most likely many people now looking at that, saying that that might have been it. Here's the scenario for me, Evan, and I'm looking at it from a fundamental standpoint. I don't see any major issue economically that we haven't addressed. We've addressed this with the suppression of business, so we're starting to see the responses. We've suppressed this on the potential for price stability. The responses are starting to come in, which is why I think Powell was so butterfly-ish. You know?
Right.
I don't even think he was dovish. I think he was even softer than that, and he did not push back at all. Yeah, I was very surprised. I think that's why the press corps was so so interesting around it. We're going to have lots of breakdowns for you guys today too. Ethereum. Let's go over to Ethereum. I want to take a look at a couple things. Of course, 7 test nets now in an epic week of preparations for Shanghai. This to me tells me that ETH has been suppressed. Could we see some fundamentals that start to move ETH on the charts? Tell me what you're seeing, Evan.
Yeah, so two main things with ETH. I mean, we're in kind of this time period where even if we hit the bottom, it does look like Bitcoin will outperform ETH. The first thing, this is ETH versus Bitcoin. I want to show you briefly before I show you ETH versus US dollar. And you're in this place, you got a blood diamond right here. This is a rare thing that happens. I think one or two things has happened. One thing, we come down a good amount against Bitcoin, which could be 40 to 50%, especially if we make lower lows. And a lot of people are kind of giving up on crypto, getting bored with it too, which is what you kind of see after we bottom out. Sometimes if we have bottomed out or when we're close to bottoming out and ETH and altcoins bleed against Bitcoin, you got a technical target down here. So towards the end of the year, you could see a really good buying opportunity for ETH against Bitcoin, ETH over Bitcoin towards the end of the year. Right now, for accumulation, 100% I would be just focusing on Bitcoin just because how things look there. Also, if we look at ETH too, there's a few things that look a little bit more bearish compared to Bitcoin. So you got the 3-day, it's very similar to Bitcoin. You know, RSI split apart, red dot here. You know, if it looks similar to kind of this pattern, these are known for 30% drops down. That could bring you back down to, you know, your bottom there, maybe form a double bottom, something along those lines. But also what I want to show you here on your 20-hour, you got double blood diamonds, which typically blood diamonds on this time frame, we look here, brought you, you know, generally they lag a little bit, but generally they brought you down, especially back here in these parts too, brought you down quite a bit. So we have to worry about that. So there's that big possibility there. Now, what I think could happen, like I was talking about, if it's like the NASDAQ after .com bubble, you could have one more leg up in the next week or so, maybe 1,800, 1,700, around these areas next few weeks, and then you kind of come down. So there's that big possibility. We've also moved a lot in the last, month here, and it would make sense to be a bit more choppy, a bit more boring, like one of these areas for the month of February, bore a lot of people away, then break what I think would be break downward into March. Maybe when the Fed speaks in March, things look more hawkish, raise another 5 basis points, but sounds more hawkish, way less dovish than this time. That's what brings us down farther here. So that's a big thing to look at. In terms of lower timeframes here, I just want to show you guys, I mean, we're going to have a pullback. I don't think it's going to be very unlikely that you're just going to shoot above, 1,700 here, this far line right here. Very overheated, money flow coming down. I mean, this is textbook. When this does cross into the red in some of these timeframes, should bring you down, a good amount. Look at like back here, a 30% correction is in the books. Even if we get up to kind of 1,800 here, I think you will have at least a 30% correction, probably into late February into March for that thing right there. So yeah.
All right, so Ethereum, as everybody knows, has had almost a 36% increase since the first of the year. So if you're buying crypto this year, you're way up in terms of where the market is. As I always say, take profits on these kind of things. We've been doing this, trading in and out. If you followed our portfolio at the beginning of the year on Jan 6 when we dropped that one, there was a lot there to where Bitcoin and Ethereum both are going. I think the key here is going to be, why are the altcoins, specific altcoins, having such a day in the sun? If you look at Atom, Render, even Solana, and to a certain extent Avalanche, which has had a nice bit of a run here recently, so many different things play into this. Now, again, when I say whether we're bullish, bearish, I think the point is right now is we're cautious because the scenarios we're starting to see the opening, I think, of the window for the first time. It feels like everything's been cooped up for such a long time. I feel very confident now that Powell is in a position where he has information or data that has not yet been revealed. And I still think that it's going to link to these jobs numbers, which will really trigger in a big way. Jobs numbers go down, Bitcoin's going to take off, as is Ethereum. Other things I want to take a look at let's go over to Avalanche now. Just a quick note from them. Big leap for DeFi. Just launched a subnet, bringing more sub-second trading execution now on Dexalot. More, I think we'll see continued partnerships. So what are your thoughts on Avalanche right now as it's holding?
Yeah, some great fundamentals lately, but yeah, like you were saying, I mean, it's just got my chart over here. Like you were saying, it's a lot of like we're seeing them take off, but I still think it's kind of a false rally because you do see Bitcoin dominance just keep rising as you've seen this. And especially with the ETH Bitcoin valuations and a lot of these evaluations against Bitcoin for these altcoins, you're not seeing, exactly what you want to see. I want to start on a 3-day right here and just show you this pattern here. So blue triangle, which is on MarketsFRA indicative of trend reversals. It does a pretty good job. Now it could be trend reversals both ways. You see right here, you came up higher. There's out of the bearish trend reversal there, same thing out of the bearish trend reversal there. But here in the bear market, they're all bearish trend reversals. And I don't see a reason to believe that it's going to play out like this one or this one. I could be wrong. And it would be crazy if it does happen. I don't think it's likely. But I think once you get the next red dot here, this trend reversal should bring you back down to a potential, at least a double bottom into, March, April, into mid-year. And then that'll be the test of, do we bottom out there with a double bottom, or do we come lower to some crazy low numbers like $5? And so that's the real place to get in for some crazy gains right there. So that's what I'm looking at, on AVAX right there. I think ultimately, these are the everybody's talking about these altcoins right now. I think if you're going to be investing, financial advice, but Bitcoin's probably the better move because I think Bitcoin's going to outperform a lot of these altcoins for at least the next 4 to 6 months here. Also kind of on some of these middle time frames. I mean, I'm not saying you can't pump up a little bit higher here, but this is so overheated. Just look at this money flow right here coming down. I mean, you could easily see a repeat of like on the 8-hour time frame. Once this money flow crosses back into the red, I mean, that was a 50% correction there. If we come down, another 56%, that's a lower low. You would at least probably mess around with $10 at least one more time here. So that's why I'm very cautious on AVAX.
Just as a reminder, again, we did our portfolio update early this year, and then I'll shoot to this screen here. This was kind of our quick layout. Some of you guys may have not had a chance to see our portfolio update, but this was kind of our starting point. We did a lot of buys in early January. We've done some exits that we continue to move into. Here was our swing list render, H&T, of course, AVAX on there at 1230. So a lot of this has been in good position for us. And what I say to everybody is, as you start to see these numbers and really kind of see this excel, which, by the way, we will do an update with that portfolio because there's a lot of moves that we can be making now. But AVAX has had an 84% move. I mean, this chart is insane. And this is just since, the early buy. And you could have had it if you sold it right there at the top at 21, a considerable more move. So, lot of opportunities here. I don't know that this is necessarily going to hold out. However, there is a lot of fundamentals that are continuing to flow into the market. If we don't see the corrections, if the Fed comes in and we see the debt ceiling come into this is something I wanted to talk about that I don't know if I pulled it up. Let me see if I've got that chart. I think this might be it right here. Yeah, so this was the point that Powell was making that I wanted you guys to pay attention to, was this whole issue with Biden and McCarthy. This is basically the speaker and the president clashing ahead of this whole debt ceiling meeting. And if Powell, to his point, is that I think he was leaning into the point that the government may actually increase the debt ceiling. There's a possibility that this could get negotiated. If that occurs, guys, this is basically printing money. And that's what happens to be able to deal with all of these challenges that the U.S. government is facing. And the big ones that they're dealing with right now, if you look at it, let me go over here to what Biden was saying. Yeah, right here. So They're very divided over some of the programs, but the bigger ones are getting into things like Social Security, all the issues around some of these programs that the Democrats have been able to continue to push on. And I think the scenario that this plays into for the Fed being able to pivot in a very short period of time will depend on how Congress adjusts here. Whether there's a negotiation or all that makes interesting plays for sure. Let me go and drop that in. We want to jump over to, let's go ahead and look at Solana real quick because I don't have any updates on that, but do you have any updates on your chart?
Yeah, let's go to Solana. The other thing too, I wanted to just comment real quick before about the pivot is typically the market bottoms out after the pivot.
Exactly.
So if we do pivot in, April, May, that could still be the case for Bitcoin not bottoming until September, November, to see, you know what I mean, towards the end of the year to come down farther. So keep that in mind. It doesn't automatically mean we're just going to come up right after the pivot. So getting onto Solana right here, let me show you the this is the main pattern. So you look at these trend reversals right here, trend reversal red dot. This confirms in about a day here. So that's a pretty decent probability that you could come down lower with Solana. And, it's a big debate. Is Solana a dead project? Does it ever make it up to the previous all-time high? I think there's probably more likely it doesn't make it up to the previous all-time high, but there's going to be a lot of rallies in there. And I think the next bull run, you probably will come up a substantial amount, but this obviously isn't going to, repeat that crazy gain we had from before. I mean, there's a lot of things to be concerned about here fundamentally and on the charts. I mean, trend reversal and then red dot. I think, you obviously could come up a little bit more here, maybe up to $30, if it is like after the .com bubble, if Bitcoin comes up to, 25K or something, get the last few people out or shorting and then kind of come down. That's the big possibility for this month. That's kind of the most bullish I could see right now. It's kind of the same as like a lot of other things. I mean, we know that most likely the majority of this rally is over, very overheated money flow coming out. I think what will really mark the end of this is probably when the money flow comes into the red on these bigger time frames here, like 10-hour, 12-hour. And if you look at kind of what happened, here it didn't work out too well, but typically, kind of what happened here, it gets a little choppy and then you come down. I mean, these are big corrections when it does happen. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at in Solana.
There is something unique though happening with Solana, and that is its long-term sentiment outlook, because we've been continuously tracking and it started to recover here over the past 2 weeks. So when I look at that, because I was concerned that Solana was going to be really damaged in a long-term effect of what happened through the FTX. I don't necessarily see that now, Evan. So now I don't know that it will get to an all-time high of where it was, up in the 250s ranges, but it's very possible that Solana could really be another project that could do maybe not a 10x, but it could do maybe a 5x from here, along with some of the other moves. But remember, many of these new projects coming in, Polygon, Arweave, Render, Helium to a certain extent, all of those have some validity, along with some of the Web3 projects that we're watching very closely.
I mean, a 5x, that's not enough. Well, it's not enough.
Yeah, I know. We're looking for those 50x juicy ones. Yes, of course. All the degens in the crowd are standing up saying, yeah, giving us a wave right now, I feel like. Let's go over to one of those degens right now, and that's Render. Render, of course, still early stage. Lots happening with Render, and they continue to fly up the chart. I sold half this bag, I think, last week when it hit 17, I think was the number or something like that. If you're not in our mastermind group, that's where we do all of our trades. So make sure and jump into it. Just go over to PBN. You'll find us there. All right. What do you think? Render. What does this look like?
Render.
This is going crazy right now.
This is the king of just hyperbolic. So the things you want to look at typically, this is like one that has a high probability of working. Look at big places where price tends to stick to. Now, you're finally hitting kind of over here on Render. This is around $1.60, as you can see right here. This is a place where price starts to stick to. You make it higher than here, the next big place is going to be around $2. Can you make it to $2? I mean, who knows? It's going crazy. This is, there's a lot of craziness here. Sometimes maybe it can, maybe it can't. But the other thing I want to show you here, as soon as my chart loads, is what we want to look at, like the other ones, is money flow to start to really come down on the 8-hour, on the 10-hour, on these time frames right here. Also, what you want to look for is money flow to really come down in the 4 hours. So I think probably at minimum, what you want to look for a potential place to get out or a potential place to look to short is look at how long we've been in the green here.
Right.
Wait till this comes into the red, which this could be in a week or two. This comes into the red. I think there's a decent probability you're probably done with this rally and you're probably going to head down. But this is a pretty crazy one. I mean, there are some other signs here that we could be, topping out here. You got a trend reversal on the weekly blue triangle right there. It's the first time that's ever happened on this. So that could be a decent sign right there. I don't think this could make it up to $2 or, $2.50, but who knows? It's very hard to say when something is just going hyperbolic. I mean, this reminds me of Shiba Inu a little bit back last October of 2021. So
yeah. 274% since January, guys.
Yeah.
So that's a nice 3x in a very short period of time, literally 1 month. So, and hey, if you were following our channel, you knew this because we were really jumping in on where render was going. We saw a lot of fundamental around it. Still on this trade right now. I'm in the middle of it. There are some new ones that we're going to be adding to our portfolio. We'll probably do a portfolio update. I don't know if we'll get it in this week, but we will get one for you guys very soon. We'll update the portfolio, some exit points, some entry points, all that good stuff. Let's get over to Arweave real quick. All-time high transaction count on Arweave right now, 80% month over month, 21.4% higher than the NFT bull market peak.
Wow.
Let that sink in for a minute. Bull market peak. And we're over that by 21%. Arweave, from a data standpoint, could be the next AWS for Web3. So with that in case, and just keeping those things around you, Arweave is one of our strong positions. Where do you see it right now, Evan?
Yeah, let's take a look here. So Arweave right now, the main thing I'm looking at is on the 2-day right here where I circled. You got this pattern. You got the trend reversal, which, I mean, maybe it could be different this time, but every single time here, your blue triangle trend reversal indicator, market cipher A, gave you what you needed to come down a bit. Maybe it's different this time, but I do think kind of, even if you look at the money flow coming to the green here, it came back down. I do think we're kind of close to at least a local top here. I mean, we were talking about that data. Things are really high. A lot's going on with it. Maybe that's the peak. Maybe that's the peak and we need to come down here. In terms of the other things to look at, money flow extremely overheated on the 10-hour, extremely overheated on the 12-hour. I mean, can you come up a little bit higher, maybe make a double top hour at $15? Sure, that's absolutely possible in the next few weeks. I think after that, you got to come down. The other thing, too, is you kind of want to have at least a healthy correction here. You don't want to just go straight up. That's where you get into trouble because it's unsustainable. Everyone's just going to dump the bags on you.
Sensibility. We're trying to trade here.
Yeah. Yeah, when you finally buy it at $30, that's
don't FOMO. Don't FOMO, guys. Don't FOMO. Yeah. No FOMO.
I don't. Even if you look at, let me show you this pattern on the daily too. Look at the green right here. Every time you come to the green, it's pretty short lived typically. You come up, down, up, down. And I mean, this rally too, it's nothing. Look at how much we came up. We came up 96%. Look at how much this was, 150. So we could even come up. Where's 150? Could come up to 150, then still crash down, make a lower low in the in March and April. So be very careful there. This is some degeneracy here.
Yes, it is. It is the degenerate crowd. Our charts from our trade date of Jan 6, 78% up, almost 78% up. We are going to continue to give you these kinds of insider, what we feel our moves are based on our own research, our own sentiment data that we track constantly, 50 tokens in our CPI. This is really kind of the guiding light for how we move because we're looking at sentiment strategies. And when you look at the macro and the markets, sentiment is typically the big correlation point that a lot of price action occurs from. Last token for you is Cosmos. Another one that we selected this year for our bag, Atom, was pretty hot today. What are your thoughts on Atom?
Atom, I like. It's one of my top projects. In terms of, like I've been saying, versus Bitcoin right now, I probably wouldn't be investing in it at the moment, but it's one I'm really looking to get into, big time towards the end of the year, mid to late this year. The main thing, it's kind of the same pattern that I'm going to show you on a lot of these. Actually, it was the 3-day. Right here, if you just look at these blue triangles, blue triangle, and then you came down, little triangle, green dot, red dot there, that kind of pattern. So I'm not saying you can't come up a little bit higher here, but I do think ultimately you probably will roll over here at some point, this month into February and come down a bit more. It just looks very overheated with money flow starting to come down here. And you're running into these points. I mean, just look at historically here over, this was a while, even September 2022, what we've seen in this environment. You hit this $15 area, you get fiercely rejected. You know what I mean? You could easily repeat something of that nature. If you repeat something of that nature down here, this was a big period. This was about 3 months right there, 50% correction over the next 3 months. That's absolutely possible. And that would be your case for a double bottom pattern into, May, April, something of that nature. So that's pretty big right there. The other thing too, I would be looking at is probably on, the 6 hour would be a good indication of it. When money flow starts to come back into the red here as a potential top, like I've been where it's going to be room for potential top, you're not going to be the 10 hour, 12 hour. When this money flow gets into the red, good indication that you're probably going to come down a good amount, maybe repeat something of this nature. The question right there. So yeah.
Very interesting stuff, guys. Bitcoin, of course, continuing to give it a little bit of move. It is now hitting at the 23.6 mark. So we may see Bitcoin start to slide in to that pocket right there at that high of Sunday, which was around 23.9, 23.8. So we'll see how this plays out over the next few days. Post-FOMC could be an interesting play here, guys, because there's a lot, I think, of how people in the markets will digest this. What kind of reaction we'll see to this, because if we do break that high, Sunday's high, things could get very interesting for Bitcoin in a short period of time. Not saying that we may not get a chance for retracing. If you're not necessarily in a trade right now on Bitcoin, I'm more of a position where I would probably wait because you're on the green side right now. Look for some options of being able to get down in some corrective zones. And listen, if we have hit the bottom and the Powell is getting to the point where we just got a little bit less ammunition coming from the Fed and we're moving into a bull market, we're probably not going to see that bottom, guys. And it's very possible that 15.8 was our bottom. So we'll see how this plays out. Now I've talked to several analysts that have kind of flipped around. A couple of questions we'll take. Let's get to the poll real quick and take a look. Let's see what the poll has coming in here somewhere. Maybe we've got the poll coming. And don't forget, guys, we'll drop some questions in on the side. Let's see here, a couple of questions. Oh, okay, here's one from Mark Gautier. He's saying that will ETH even reach the 800? There's been a handful of people that still think that ETH will potentially hit that at that low. Let's go down there. Bitcoin to 24, 68% holding that. Bitcoin, okay, so people think it's going to hit it. That'll be interesting. All right, guys, good for you. A lot of bullish people in the audience right there. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, the thing, what was it? Was it, will ETH hit
24 or
1800?
22? 22.
Oh, okay,
Bitcoin.
For Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What will happen first? It seems like 24. I think the audience probably will get it right. I mean, it's a close area. I mean, you could wick down to 24 and then come right up to 22, and come right up to 25. I mean, that's a tough one, but I think you could get up to 24/7, 200 weekly moving average. That could be a case where you reject fiercely from. And if you do, that's a very bearish sign. It looks like you're just going to roll over on the monthly and come down farther in the coming months into March and April. So, yeah.
A couple points here on the questions. Herb says debt ceiling will happen. If not, then you need to rethink 2008, which was a walk in the park. Definitely a scenario because there's a lot of things that are playing into it, which goes back to the potential of a pivot, which is Powell. When you looked at this, is the first time I've seen Powell actually go against that, meaning adjust his thinking that we're in a position where he could soften these kind of things going forward. So very interesting right here. PB, do you think Bitcoin retests in the near future to a mid 21? Yeah, I think that we're going to probably see a 21K for sure. It's a good spot for me right now on dollar cost averaging because you know me, guys. Bitcoin's my biggest position. Sure, I get out on my high risk tokens and I do kind of my mid risk tokens, but I'm looking very interesting at it right now. Here's Corey coming in. Are you adding Solana to your bag? Yes, we're going to bring Solana back into the swing trade bags because I think Solana has made it through the troubled times. Now, can they really shine against Polygon and Avalanche and all that? Listen, competition is big out there right now. Let's see here. Next dip is end of February, possibly March. We could see one. I'm watching this sentiment data very closely. Make sure and get in on our diamond circles. We're dropping a lot more sentiment tool. It's over on our Substack, which is just pbn3.substack. You'll find us there, or you can join on the website. Very easy, or click the link below. Very stuff. Hey, Evan, always fun chatting with you, and great to see you back.
Yeah, thanks so much, Paul. Have a good one.
All right. You guys, we're going to have a big lineup for you this week. We've got a bunch more interviews. I think we got Tom Crown coming on this week. He's going to do some charting on Bitcoin, really kind of see how it adjusts out. We might be able to get a chance to see some interesting things in the Bitcoin lineup. We'll also do a ton of deep dives. Do you guys want the portfolio video this week? We could do an update on this. The only problem is I need to really run some analysis on the forward thinking of what kind of swing trades we would position. Let us know. Drop some comments down below. If you guys want to reach me, it's out there on Twitter @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.